Right, welcome to another episode of the Old Paratrooper Podcast, a podcast where we talk to a variety of guests from all walks of life, with ultimately one of the goals of raising awareness for mental health across the board. And today, it is my pleasure to be joined with former Olympic wrestler, the first UFC Heavyweight Champion, UFC Hall of Famer, and Ohio hero, Mark the Hammer Coleman. How you doing, Mark? All right?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you?
I'm really well. Thank you so much for coming on. I know we've done a lot of back and forth over the last few months, but I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come on. It means a hell of a lot to me. So thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you. What I like to do with all the podcasts, Mark, is start at the beginning, a bit about yourself, where you grew up, and kind of what led you down the path into wrestling and beyond. So, yeah, over to you.
Columbus, Ohio, United States of America. I started wrestling at a very young age. I started at 5 years of age. I could do 100 push-ups in a row. I already knew what I wanted to do when I was 5. I wanted to be the best athlete in the world, and I wanted to be the toughest guy in the world. There was no mixed martial arts, but I still wanted to be that guy. So I wanted to be a great athlete, but I also wanted to be able to protect myself and protect people around me.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, in America, you do a lot of kind of sports, a varied variety of sports. So is that where you kind of started wrestling at school?
Yeah, I played football. I wanted to play in the NFL football. That was one of my goals. But I played football, wrestling, and I played baseball. So I played year-round sports. I just switched during the seasons, and then you know I was all state in all 3 sports. I was a first team all state, so I was good at all 3 of them. But when I went to college, I chose wrestling. I planned on playing football as well, but when I got to college, it was just too much. I had to cut too much weight, so cutting weight for wrestling and playing football, it wasn't a good match, so I just stuck to wrestling.
Absolutely, absolutely, pal. Well, it's good that you had that choice to start with. I mean, there's lots of people out there that probably kind of can only do one thing, but the fact that you're an all-round athlete is kind of detriment to yourself, So how you obviously went and you wrestled later on for through your school, and then you kind of went on and got on the Olympic team, didn't you?
Well, I was the national champion for The Ohio State University in college. I got hired on as an assistant coach after that. But my main job was to prepare myself for the Olympics. I coached the wrestlers, but most important for me was to make the team. So I was all in on being an Olympic champion.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously throughout the wrestling, you ended up as like the Pan American gold medalist. Is that right?
Yeah, 3-time Pan Am Games gold medalist. That's not that big a deal in wrestling, really. It's not that tough of a tournament compared to the Olympics. I wrestled over in Russia in 1989. It was still USSR. I was just fresh out of college, and the USA put me on a tour over there. And 21 days, there was no heat, there was no food. Wow. It was middle of January. It turned me into a man. Going to Russia for 21 days, I came back a man, and that was big for me. I started realizing that I did belong, and that this was going to be a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine being over there at that time of year being pretty cold, to be honest. So I did read, now correct me if I'm wrong, you accidentally stumbled across UFC. Is that true?
No.
Oh, okay. I don't know. That information's wrong then.
No, I was, I tried out I made the 92 Olympic team, and then I kind of lost. I was 27, and I was very disappointed. I took 7th at the Olympics. I kind of choked, and then I took some time off the wrestling mat, but I stayed in the weight room. I got a lot bigger and a lot stronger with the time off the wrestling room, but I started playing around with alcohol and drugs during this time, and so I wasn't dedicated anymore, but I did try out for the 96 Olympic team. I lost in the semifinals, so I didn't make the team. And as soon as I lost, a manager had approached me at the trials. He took me into a room. He told me he had a spot in UFC 10 in 35 days. And I talked my way in. I told him, that's my job. I said, I'll beat the hell out of anybody you're looking at. And I said, I'll beat the hell out of Don Fry, who won UFC 9. I said, I'll beat his ass. And I talked my way onto the show. So, and then it went very well. So, no, I seen UFC 1, and I knew exactly that was my money. I'm going to get that money.
No, well, absolutely, because obviously you went on and you kind of dominated from pretty much when you got in there. So, like, you became the first UFC heavyweight champion. Was that UFC 11 or UFC 10?
UFC 10 was the tournament. I won UFC 10, and I won UFC 11, a tournament. Nobody would even fight me in the finals. I could have beat anybody in the world that night, but people didn't want to fight me. They were pretty scared. I loved it. That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be intimidating, and I wanted people to respect me and fear me. So, and then UFC 12 was versus Dan the Beast Severn, and I was better UFC 12 than I was UFC 11, and nobody could have touched me UFC 12.
You was a beast back then. I suspect you're still probably a beast now, to be fair. But looking back at them UFC kind of videos and stuff, I grew up watching those, and I remember seeing you in the ring and thinking, "Wow, that guy's an animal." Because you kind of obviously you had a background in wrestling, and in your thing was like the ground and pound, take people down, and then just like smash them all over the place on the floor, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. That was you know, a lot of people don't think I used a lot of strategy and technique, but I feel like I was one of the best strategicians in the world. I had a game plan and I stuck to it. I didn't get hit, and that was the plan. Don't get hit and hit this guy, and I did pretty well not getting hit.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But the list of people you fought along the way, I mean, you beat Dan Severn, you beat Don Fry twice, you fought Gary Goodridge, you fought Fedor Emelianenko. The list of people that you've got on your resume, the fighters that you've fought along the way, Randy Couture, I mean, that is just incredible. And this is back when UFC, correct? I can't remember, were the UFC rules, there were a lot laxer back then. Could you still headbutt and stuff back then, or had that changed?
Of course, brother, that was my go-to. I had, but when the headbutts were legal, it really wasn't even fair. I mean, there was not much people could do. You got two hands to protect yourself, and I got two hands. I got a head. I got too many weapons. It just really wasn't fair.
No, absolutely. Like I say, I recall watching you and thinking I would not want to step in the ring with that man in any shape or form. I'd run a mile. So I suppose obviously you kind of did a bit with the Pride as well. You went over to Pride sort of mid 2000s for a bit. How did you find that as a difference from the UFC? Was it kind of, it's the same sort of thing, but different organization and stuff?
Well, fight's the fight, man. But every time you got different rules, it changes the game plan. And with kicks to a down opponent and knees to a down opponent, that changes your defense that's needed. But at the same time, the headbutts were no longer used, so that changes the game. But also, like you weren't allowed to use elbows, and all these things change how the fight takes place. But it's more or less still a fight. You still got to whoop somebody's ass, and you know that's what I did. But you know, like I said, after I beat Dan Severn, um, I, I got a pretty big head. I was starting to get real popular. I was starting to chase the ladies, and I slacked way off on my training, and I blew my knee out. So a lot of things happened in a row. I ended up losing 3 straight fights. I got cut from the UFC, and what an eye opener! But the Pride picked me up. They put me in their organization. I had to fight Takada to get into the Pride organization. I had to fight Takada, which obviously I lost on purpose, but I had to do that to get on the squad. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not ashamed of it. I did what I did. they advertised it as a pro wrestling match, so I was okay with it. But then I had to beat 6'9", 275-pound Ricardo Morai from Brazil. I had to beat him to get into the Grand Prix, which I did, and my first win in a while. And then by this time, by the time the Grand Prix started, I had 8 months of training in with no drugs, no alcohol. I was back to where I was in the best shape of my life, and I absolutely knew I was going to win that tournament. I knew I was the man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you don't prepare right for competitions like that, I'm open about I box quite a bit over the years, but it's a lonely place in the ring, and obviously UFC being an all round kind of fitness, when you're grappling on the floor and you're blowing out your arse and your cardio is not good, it's kind of be a lonely place, I suspect.
It's the worst place in the world to be when you didn't prepare right. It's the most humbling. My first loss was against Maurice Smith. I was defending my belt, and honestly, my head was so swelled up, so big, I thought I could beat him without training, which I did for 3 minutes. I beat the living hell out of him for 3 minutes. I knocked him out with a headbutt, but I woke him up with another one. And then about 3 minutes into it, I took a break. I remember staring at his eyes, and his face was lumped up already, but he stared me. He looked me right back in the eyes, and I read his mind. He's like, "I'm still here, Coleman, and you're getting tired, brother." And it was 21 minutes of just pure hell. I mean, I was exhausted at the 3 minute mark, but I made it 21 minutes. I don't know how. He kicked me in the legs 50 times. It was brutally, brutally painful, but uh, it was one of the most important days of my life, that lesson learned.
Yeah, I suppose that once you've been caught out once with not preparing, you're not going to do it again because, like I say, it's
Well,
a
I did do it again. Unfortunately,
oh,
I did it. My whole career was, I was the, my whole career was um, scarred with my addiction, my alcohol addiction, and when I did prepare, I won. And it's not an excuse. I got whooped. Not preparing is not an excuse, but um, my own fault. Just stupidity and ignorance, and I'm not proud of my career at all. I should have never got beat, and I did, so I accept it. I'm okay with it, but I would like to have done things differently.
yeah, absolutely. It's easy to look back in hindsight, but when you become popular and you start to get a lot of money and stuff, and it's easy to kind of maybe kind of lose sight about why you started doing it in the first place.
Well, sure, but the goats. It's not problem. It's not a problem for the goats. There's a reason I'm not one of the goats. That's because I chose to take a different direction, and I wasn't dedicated enough. It's disappointing, but I accept it. You live and learn, and I got 4 years sober now, and it's the greatest thing I ever did. Checking into a rehab center 4 years ago, I was rock bottom. Um, and I don't even know how I was still alive. The Lord wasn't finished with me yet because I should have died many times, but I didn't. And I checked into rehab. I learned how to live life sober, and now I'm very proud to be sober 4 years, and it's a big part of my life now. Is helping others.
No, I
Helping others get sober.
No, you know what? It's kind of really, really refreshing to hear someone be honest about how they kind of wish they'd have done it, things maybe a little bit different, and how they kind of went off through. But congratulations, hats off to you for being sort of 4 years sober. That it's no easy feat. So, and you look fantastic as well. I've seen you recently on social media in absolutely amazing shape for kind of 60 odd years of age.
Um, Yeah, I took 10 years off. I didn't work out one time in 10 years. After 2010, my last fight, I walked away, and it's all I ever did is exercise and train my whole life. But I completely just walked away, and after 10 years, honestly, it was disgusting. Nothing in my body worked. My shoulders were broke, my knees, everything hurt. I was fat, I was soft, I was weak, and but I got sober for 2 years. But during that 2 years, it was brutally hard to stay sober because something was missing in my life, and it was every day was a serious, serious challenge just to stay sober. But then finally, I struck a deal with Liver King, and he told me to transform myself back into the hammer, promote the carnivore diet and the 9 ancestral tenets, and we'll be partners. So basically, I'm getting paid to transform back into the hammer. And once I got that okay, I haven't missed I haven't missed a freaking day in 2 years, except the 2 days I was in the hospital in a coma. That's the only 2 days I've missed. Other than that, I literally put in, 12 hours a day, sometimes more. I put in a few 19-hour days, and by the time I go to bed, I can hardly even walk. I'm so exhausted, so sore. I get in that bed, say some prayers, and after 8 hours sleep, I wake up, um, still sore, but you know, feeling pretty good. I just keep adding to the layers and layers. I want to be I want to be the strongest, hardest, baddest man at 60 years old in the world.
No, that's to be admired. I'm a big advocate for training and keep kind of pushing as long as you can, because if you don't use it, you lose it, don't you? And that's more apparent as you get older. And like you said, you had a break for 10 years and everything were aching. And that kind of happens when you stop training, doesn't it?
Not kind of. That does happen, and right now, um, it, I, it's not good what's going on in America. There's just nobody. Everybody's lazy, getting fat, eating. The food is horrible. It's killing people, and I got on this journey. I've had 6 hip operations in the last year because
Wow.
of the infection and stuff, but I never missed a day. I got the surgery. I walked out of the hospital and I started going. And I had a lot of people watching my journey. They blame me for all the infections and stuff. Who knows why I got infected? But they're telling me to sit my old ass down. They're laughing at me, telling me to sit down and enjoy life. Well, you may enjoy life sitting on the freaking couch being a fat bum, but that does nothing for me. I enjoy being sore as I can be. By the nighttime, I want to be all in sore and be productive, and that's what makes me happy. So don't tell me to sit on the couch. Get your ass up and get off the couch.
No, I love it. I love it. I love it. And I have a similar sort of attitude, is that you kind of got to keep training. You got to train. It's massively important as well. You'll know this anyway, but lifting weights is one of the biggest contributing factors to keeping older people out of care homes, because they
Yeah,
lose muscle mass. You've got to keep
yeah.
lifting. You've got to keep training, haven't you?
Yes, of course. Just people are just too lazy. They're eating the wrong foods. They're sick. Uh, it's just uh, it's. Let's see if this new presidential thing can swing things back around, because we got to get healthier. It's embarrassing. It's very embarrassing right now.
I think that's across the globe. We kind of have similar sort of issues over here as well. So I think that is across the globe. But I think sometimes people have to take accountability as well. You know what I mean? For their own kind of health and well-being. And people just tend to ignore it and think that they're going to be fine by eating crap and not training. And it's not. It's the wrong attitude. We need to change the whole attitude around it, don't we?
Yeah, it's just it seems like that's the biggest way people get pleasure and enjoyment, unfortunately, by eating, and that's not the right way. I mean, I fast every day, pretty much every day, 5 days a week at least for 24 hours. It takes a lot of discipline, but that's it, man. You just got to have a little discipline. And what do you want to be? Do you want to feel good, or you want to eat and feel like shit?
Yeah, no,
You are
absolutely.
what you eat, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. It's true. What I was going to ask you about was kind of obviously we talked about the fire, which I'll come on to, and that's why I really wanted to talk to you anyway. But I want to ask you about along the way through the UFC, who was, you probably get asked this a lot, but who do you think was your toughest fight that you fought against? The one that sticks out to you, where it took you right into the trenches?
A lot of them. I like you said, I never got any breaks, man. I always was fed the toughest guy out there, and um, I think the UFC wanted to get rid of me early on because they weren't happy with all the wrestling that was taking place. Even though my style was kind of exciting, I understand the wrestling can slow things down, but it's part of the game. And everybody just said, "What about this wrestling? It's so boring." Just give it time. Everybody's going to learn how to wrestle, and then everything's going to change again. So now, yeah, people, if you want to box, well, you better learn how to stop the takedown so you can box. It's that simple.
Yeah, I think it is. And if you can appreciate the kind of the moves that people do when they're wrestling, and that, in jiu-jitsu as well, and you will find it interesting. I think it's the people that don't understand it that have that opinion, don't they?
Well, sure, man. They don't understand it, and uh, it, it's not MMA without wrestling. I mean,
Yeah.
it's that simple. It has to be there, and you got to learn to deal with it. Everybody has, and now we got a beautiful sport. I think it's well rounded. You got a little bit of everything. If you look at the champions, they know how to wrestle. That's it. They know how to wrestle very well, and ground and pound is a very good strategy for being a champion.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You've got to be that all-rounded fighter, and I think that's where you talk about the discipline, the fitness. You can't just be a good. How many boxers have come into the UFC and got taken down and got leg kicks and have just? Some boxers have done well, but it's only a
Not
matter of
really.
time before.
No, they haven't.
No.
No, just no. You got to wrestle. I mean, you got to be able to wrestle to keep it on his feet to show your boxing skills. So, can't wrestle, can't fight, brother.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Look, I ain't going to argue with you because even though you're all the way over there, you still scare me, and you're the man in the know. um, okay, I want to move on. Obviously, your career, you decided to retire from UFC, and you kind of went on and did a few things after. But I want to talk to you about, obviously, quite recently in the news, there was a fire at your parents' house, and you went in and pulled your mother and father from the fire. Um, can you talk me through that whole incident, if you don't mind, and how that came
Yeah,
about? And
real quick. Like I said, if I wouldn't have got sober 4 years ago, and if I wouldn't have started exercising 2 years ago, none of that happens. My parents die. I probably die. My dog dies. But because I got sober, all this was possible. And then because everybody kept saying, I'm training so hard, and I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to compete, and people giving me shit, sit down, old man. I don't have to sit down. I do what the hell I want, and I'll make it work. And I've trained obsessively for 2 years. Thank God I did because the night of that fire, without the training that I had, it would have been over. I wouldn't have got my parents out of there, and I wouldn't have got myself out of there probably either. So because of the training I did, I was training for life. People, what are you training for? I'm training for whatever life throws at me. And thank God I did. Because of that, I was able to save my parents. They're still here today. It's almost been a year now. And my dad just turned 85. He's my hero. He's the one that gave me my toughness and my courage. And I'm just so happy him and my mom are still here, and we still got life to enjoy. So um, that's why the hell I was training, because God had plans for me, big plans, and He still does.
No, absolutely, pal. I admire your career, and I really do admire your kind of mindset. And obviously, kind of pulling your parents out of a house fire is like is immense. So hats off. And
It
like you
was
say,
it was terrifying. It was by far the scariest moment of my life. Um, there was one time where I'd gotten my dad out of the house. I thought my mom was with us. I turned around and she wasn't with us. She was still way back in the bedroom. She didn't come. And that's when I really got worried because it was getting really nasty. I grabbed her and I had to guide her down the hallway. And we fell off into a room once. And for a minute, I opened my eyes and it was the ugliest thing I've ever seen. The smoke was like, it was just brutally thick. And I opened my eyes and I was lost. And I thought for a second, not going to make it. You know, I was going to make it somehow, but I I don't know how my mom was still standing because she got asthma real bad, and somehow she was still on her feet, and we got her out of there. But it was just truly a miracle. God got me right back on the right path, and he guided me out of that house, and it was the highest of highs and the lowest of lows at the same time. I went back in a third time to try to find my dog. I got down on my knees and tried to find him underneath the bed. And, I couldn't find him, but I'd been in there probably 10 minutes now.
wow.
And I sat up and I took in a big amount of smoke. And I fell over into the bed. I got to my feet and I fell off into the bed again. And then, truly just guided by God to get me out of that house. And when I did see the opening at the end of the tunnel and I got outside to safety, I just couldn't believe that I was okay. I couldn't believe I made it. I'm okay. I thought everything was fine, but really everything wasn't fine. When the ambulance got there, basically, I collapsed pretty much, and they had to life flight me to the hospital. And then I was in a coma for a couple of days, and then I pulled through, man. I mean, I pulled through, and when I woke up, it was the most unbelievable feeling ever to wake up from the coma and know that I was going to be all right.
Yeah.
My two daughters were there. My mom and dad were alive, and just truly over. And then I found out. Then I found out the whole world was following the story, and the whole world was praying for me, and I just couldn't believe everything. It was unbelievable. It was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. And it's an incredible story, and not everyone's got that in them. And like I've said to you before, having been in house fires with breathing apparatus, I know how hot they are. I know how disorientating they are. So the fact that you've gone in there and pulled out your parents, and are your parents fitting well now as a result of that? Are they made a full recovery?
Yeah, they were fine, but yeah, they're fine. But my dad just turned 85. My mom's 81, and they're slowing down quite a bit. So it's just really good to have them still for however long. Who knows? But I mean, just grateful. I'm very grateful.
Well, I'm sure they're very grateful to you as well for pulling off what you did and pulling them out. And you said you were in a coma for 2 days, and I heard you was critical as well. I remember following the story because I was like gobsmacked when I saw it. I was like, wow, because obviously I've followed your career from the 90s and upwards. So when I heard about the story, I was like, I really would like to talk to him on the podcast. And thankfully, we've got you on and a chat. But you talk about recovery, but obviously that was again to your kind of your fitness levels. You got yourself in shape. You recover quicker because you're fitter, and that's what probably helped you recover. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be here, would you?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Um, they never seen so much black smoke on somebody's lungs. The doctors never seen so much in their life, and they were able to take a machine down there and blast the black shit off my lungs. They were able to blast a good portion of it off. And if that wouldn't have worked, it might have been a lifelong recovery. I mean, I might have never recovered fully, but because of that, about 2 or 3 months, it was pretty rough in the lungs. My eyes were burnt pretty good. My hand was burnt, but about 3 months, I felt like I was close to 100%. And right now, I mean, a miracle. Like I have no repercussions from it. I'm feeling amazing, feeling great, and I have no idea what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do something big again, and I'm on it. I don't miss. I've already got a couple hours in the day before this interview, and when we're
Really?
done, hey, brother, every day I get up and I get started. I get up and I get moving and I don't stop. That's it. Every day. I'm not exaggerating. Every freaking day.
That's awesome. I love the mindset. I do. And I hope when I get to 60, I'm still able to do sort of the same sort of stuff. Because again, I think it's incredible what you're doing, pal. So keep doing what you're
Anybody
doing.
can do it. Anybody can do it. You just got to do it. Man,
Yeah.
it's not if I can do it. You just got to do it. Why can't you do it? Anybody can do it. Just go for a walk, man. Just go for a long walk. That's one of the first things that when I started my comeback, it had been 12 years, 10 years, and it was brutal. I was in the worst shape of any human being alive. And I just started walking. And next thing you know, I'm walking 10 miles a day. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just a small portion of what I'm going to do throughout the day. So I'm obsessed. It's my new addiction.
Hey, that's good. It's good. It's a good addiction to have. And I've seen some of your training videos that you put on there, and you do look incredible. I've got to admit, on the pads and doing stuff. And fair play to you. Again, hats off.
Yeah, well, I'm just getting started. I mean, I've had 6 hip operations this past year. So when my hip gets strong, it's still very, very sore and it's coming along. But man, I got a ways to go. Don't I don't set limits. I have no idea how far I can go. I'm gonna find out. So I don't know what I'll be doing. I don't doubt anything that I can do.
No, fair play, fair play. Do you recommend the carnivore diet then? Obviously, I know what you're going to say, but I've been looking at it myself. And you recommend it?
Well, carnivore, yes, I'm all about it, but at the same time, with the amount of exercise I'm doing, I do eat fruits and vegetables a lot. I need both. I need both, and I go organic. You got to go organic. I go to a farm. I get all my food from the farm, but I mix it up pretty well, and I feel absolutely amazing.
No, brilliant stuff, bro. Well, may it long continue. I just want to ask you quickly before we kind of wrap up. I'm conscious of time. I don't want to keep you, but what have you got coming up? Is there anything you can talk about? Because obviously you've been traveling around a bit. I've kind of, when we've been talking, you've been in different parts of the States and stuff. So what have you got coming up that you can
Well,
talk about?
yeah, I did a wheelchair boxing match in Thailand. That was super fun. Uh, uh, you got a guy that pushes you, and it was real. It was the first competition I did in a long many years, but it was as intense as it could be. I took it very seriously. I did knock the guy down 2 or 3 times. It was supposed to be for fun, and it was very fun. I'm looking forward to doing it again. Maybe I'll fight 3 guys in one night in the wheelchair. I just got back from Colombia. I got stem cell over there, so that's going amazing. I'm going back to Colombia to get more stem cell. I'm working with Liver King. It's the barbarian way of life where the barbarian is you got 300 pounds, you got 70 pounds in your vest in your back, you got 70 pounds in your hands, you got 70 pounds in the sled, and then you got ankle weights on, and you got to pull the sled for a mile for time, and it's a way of life. It's a rite of passage. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. And during that 1 mile, nothing else in your life matters. Any other problems you ever had, they they're non-existent at the time. And I'm getting ready to go to Liver King's ranch. I'm gonna stay there for about 3 months, and I'm gonna train him and his kids in wrestling, and he's gonna train me in the Barbarian, and I plan on killing it. You know, he did it. He's got the record at 49 minutes. He pulled his sled in 49 minutes for an hour, whereas I just watched 20 other MMA athletes come to a convention. 20 of them had to do the pull, and the fastest time for these young, in-shape kids was 1 hour and 49 minutes. So Liver King beat everybody by an hour, and I want to find out what I can do.
Yeah, well, I reckon you'll smash it.
No, Liver King already made it clear I'm not beating his record.
Fair
he's
play.
a bad.
Well, you can try.
Dude. I'm going to try, but he's a bad dude, man. He's killing it.
Yeah, fair play. But look, I'm glad we finally got you on. I know I've been pestering you a bit, but honestly, I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on, pal.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.